If you just watched legacy media, if all you consumed was legacy media all day long, you would think that it is now illegal to say the word gay in the state of Florida. And apparently every left-wing celebrity you know thinks it is illegal to say the word gay in Florida. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. He just tweeted out yesterday a giant tweet that just said gay, 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 like 1,000 times. You see every celebrity that you can think of tweeting out the word gay because somehow this is a blow against the evil, repressive state of Florida, which of course does have a fairly significant gay population living within it. There are a bunch of people who are tweeting out yesterday that they were being silenced and erased from Florida life because of the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Again, if you thought that there was a bill called Don't Say Gay that had just passed the Florida legislature and that had been signed into law by the governor, number one, that would be violative of the First Amendment. And number two, you might think that there would be a punishment for doing any of these things. There is not, because there is no Don't Say Gay bill in the state of Florida. Instead, there is a bill that says that teachers are not allowed to sexually or gender ideology indoctrinate children K through 3. And then they are not allowed to do any of that stuff in a non-age appropriate fashion beyond that age. 5th, 6th grade, you're not supposed to be teaching kids about hormone treatments that change your sex, for example. That would be non-age appropriate for kids who are maybe 11 or 12 years old. The bill does not say the word gay. The bill says the word parent about 30 times because the entire bill is about how parents ought to have the chief decision-making power with regard to how their kids are taught about controversial sexual and gender issues. It is not up to the schools to indoctrinate kids into the belief that all forms of sex are morally equivalent. It is not up to schools to instruct kids on different types of sex. It is not up to schools to instruct small children on the lie that men can become women and women can become men. But the entire legacy media just took what the left called this bill and then they repeated it and pretended that that was the name of the bill. Now, this would be the equivalent of if Democrats passed some sort of bill in, say, the state of New York that enshrined abortion up till the 9th month, which is what the New York legislature did. And the Republicans had termed this the Kill Babies Bill, which would be a much more accurate take on the bill than, for example, Don't Say Gay. But let's say that they had named it that because obviously they opposed the bill. So they called it the Let's Kill Babies Bill. And the entire media had immediately started using that language. Every headline had started using that language. That would demonstrate that the media were just lapdogs for the Republican Party. However, in this particular case, they have done that with the Democratic talking point with regard to the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. It is not a so-called Don't Say Gay bill. It is a Democratic propaganda labeled Don't Say Gay bill because the bill, again, does not say that. I've explained this 1,000 times on the show already. Protecting the innocence of children and granting parents the authority to actually raise their children as they see fit with regard to sexual mores. This seems like baseline decency. And yet this has become the most controversial issue. The left has decided to embrace this issue. This is the issue. This is the hill they want to die on because their idea is that if they do not get to indoctrinate all the children on their particular values, then a small fragment of kids who may be suffering from gender dysphoria are going to kill themselves. The idea is that they are the sympathetic ones, and all they need in order to promote their sympathy is to override your parental values and destroy your relationship with your child. That's all they need. All they need is to just take your kids and put them in some sort of platonic school where they get to indoctrinate their kids, your kids, in their values. And then the world will be a utopian place. I mean, sure, your kids may believe a bunch of lies about gender. Sure, your kids may believe a bunch of things you believe to be immoral about sexuality. But at least they've been able to create a utopia of their own making. They need your kids as tools in this mission. That is why they are fussing about this bill. Again, this is not a bill that says you can't say gay in the state of Florida. It's not even a bill that says that you can't say the word gay in school. It says that you are not allowed to indoctrinate small children into your sexual values, and the left is having a bleep fit over it, which demonstrates where they are. And the fact that the media just reflect whatever the propaganda point of the day is truly astonishing. And let me just show you some of the media headlines that have used the Don't Say Gay labeling, okay, because there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. The media universally adopted this language because the memo went out. So, for example, the AP, this is just a straight headline. It's not an opinion headline from Anthony Izagare, who I assume didn't write the headline. It says, Don't Say Gay bill passes in Florida, goes to governor. That's not the name of the bill. This is like if Republicans had labeled Build Back Better, giant waste of money, pork barrel spending bullcrap bill, and that had been in the headline of an AP article. Don't Say Gay bill. Axios said Florida lawmakers passed Don't Say Gay bill. That is not the name of the bill. The word gay does not appear in the bill. That is not the topic of the bill. You have other headlines. Don't Say Gay bill passes Florida Senate. Right? All of these headlines, just over and over and over again. Every single outlet that you can imagine labeled this thing the quote-unquote don't say gay bill. Every single one. It's incredible. They went along with it. We're talking about Axios. We're talking about ABC News. We're talking about NBC News. We're talking pretty much every outlet you could possibly imagine calls it the don't say gay bill because they are all on the same page. They get the talking points from the Democratic Party and they walk directly in line with it. And this is coming directly from the White House. Make no mistake. They started ground up from a bunch of Democratic activists. And now, because this White House is run by Democratic radicals, it is not a moderate administration, is not even pretend to be a moderate administration anymore. Jen Psaki yesterday suggested that this bill was quote unquote horrific and said that if you don't teach a kindergartner that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, or if there's a bill banning you from doing so, if you don't teach a second grader that all forms of sex are exactly morally equivalent and that all lifestyle choices are exactly the same and deserve equal respect and acceptance, all of them. If you don't do any of that stuff, then this is actually a form of bullying. They're protecting your kids by indoctrinating them in their values, by taking your kids and turning them against your values. This is how they avoid bullying because you're the bullies. You, the parents, are the problem. Again, this is so deeply ingrained in left-wing thinking right now that parents are the obstacle to a better tomorrow. This is why you saw Terry McAuliffe say in that Virginia governor's race that parents should not have authority to determine what their kids learn because parents are the enemy. Parents are the problem. Those little platoons, those families that represent the most valuable and the most durable form of human connection that we have, they are an obstacle to the government being the great unifying glue in American life. They want to be able to take your kids away from you and then turn their values against your values. This is their goal. They want it. And they will call it a form of bullying if they don't get what they want. So you must be bullied. You must be silenced. Your kids must be told stuff that you don't have to know about it. What this bill does is it says that if your kid starts being indoctrinated in this stuff, parents have to be notified. Democrats object to this. They don't want parents notified. They want to be able to tell your child that he can be a she in first grade and not tell you about it. They want to be able to teach your kids about myriad forms of sexual exploration when the kid's 8, and they don't want to have to tell you about it. Otherwise, what the hell are they objecting to? So they have to lie. They have to call it the don't say gay bill because that's not what the bill is. And the entire media picks that up and then uses that as the propagandistic talking point. Here's Jen Psaki leading the charge.
A bill like this, a bill that would discriminate against families, against kids, put these kids in a position of not getting the support they need at a time where that's exactly what they need, is discriminatory. It's a form of bullying. It is horrific.
It's horrific. Now, get this straight. It's horrific if you don't get to indoctrinate my kids. That's horrific. If I teach my kids my values, that's horrific. Because parents are the problem. They are the problem. And again, there is an entire group of people on the left, and all they wish to do is indoctrinate kids into these sorts of values. They want kids to learn these sorts of values. Now, it's the worst in public schools because there you're actually hijacking kids against their parents' wishes. There are a whole group of parents who consensually, for some odd reason, decide that it's a good idea to give activists free reign over their children to turn them into widgets on behalf of radical left-wing sexual morality. Which is why you end up with a sex education summer camp for children in grades 3 to 5 in Indianapolis that teaches kids as young as 7 about sexual education, including a condom demonstration for children. According to the Daily Wire, there's a flyer for this particular sex ed summer camp for kids in northern Indianapolis. And it says at this age, kids are primed for level-headed learning. They're information gatherers. There is no shame or ickiness associated with using Band-Aids. That same philosophy is applied to condoms and other barriers in this body-positive curriculum. In addition, kids will not be separated by gender when learning about puberty, bodies, and sex because, quote, gender is a spectrum, and everyone needs to learn about all bodies, according to this flyer. And there are parents who will delegate their kids to places like this, which is how you end up with video of Chasten Buttigieg, Pete Buttigieg's husband, teaching small children. I mean, these kids these are kids. These are like 10, 11, 12-year-old kids to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the gay flag. Now, parents presumably gave their permission to this sort of thing. But imagine, for example, and I'm not going to go into what I think of parents who do this sort of thing, but assume that this were not happening for a second at a place where parents gave permission. It were just happening at your school. And teachers were doing this with your kids and not informing you. Shouldn't that be illegal? Wouldn't you imagine it should be? But again, the folks who believe that these are the best values believe that you should have no say in whether these values get taught to your kids. Here is Chasten Buttigieg, Pete Buttigieg's husband, an ardent opponent of the bill in Florida, teaching small children to pledge allegiance to the gay flag, which, by the way, just on a moral level, you probably shouldn't be pledging allegiance to any flag that is just about where you wish to put your genitals. That just seems like I don't care what we're talking about. If there were a straight pride flag, I don't believe that you should be paying homage to it. It's a ridiculous notion. Just clearly, the idea that the center of your personality should be who you wish to have sex with or how you are oriented, and that this is something you should pledge allegiance to, is a very bizarre one. And it's meant in opposition, presumably, to other values, which is why you do it in the first place. Here is Chasen Buttigieg teaching small kids about this.
All right. I pledge my heart. To the rainbow. Of the not so typical gay camp. One camp. Full of pride. Indivisible. With affirmation and equal rights for all. Watch your heads.
Remember, for the left, pledging allegiance to the American flag would be indoctrination. Pledging allegiance to the gay pride flag, that's just raising your kids in a healthy and decent way. Meanwhile, the propagandistic efforts of the left have now reached the highest levels of corporate America. So woke capital rules the day right now. If you are a corporation, you can be pressured into doing just about anything by a bunch of people shouting at you. So what the media do is they play this game. Remember, they're Democratic activists. They're not actually out there to just objectively cover the news and then provide good information. They lie, which is why all of their headlines include the overt lie that this bill is the Don't Say Gay bill. So they then go to corporations and they say to these corporations, why aren't your silence is deafening? Your silence on this topic is deafening. Now, you never see them do this on the other side. You never see them say, okay, well, a law just passed in the state of New York that allows killing up to the point of birth. What does this corporation located in the state of New York have to say about that? Are they on board with that? Or this particular area has embraced defund the police? Or this particular area believes in the mandatory indoctrination of children into these values? Do you as a corporation believe in that? By the way, it just shows you how far left our culture has moved. That Disney, a corporation designed to create entertainment for children, is now being called on the carpet for not embracing the indoctrination of small kids into sexually leftist ideology. And that just shows how far the left the culture has moved. Is that a company designed to preserve the innocence of children and provide them good, wholesome entertainment is now being shamed into embracing an agenda that says boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and kindergartners should be taught about gay sex. Like, really, we've moved in fascinating ways in our culture. We certainly have. So Disney decided they had to respond. And the reason they decided that they had to respond, of course, is because they were being pressured by the left. The left said over and over, and Disney is a left-wing company run by left-wing people and staffed by left-wing people predominantly. And they were pressed by the media, and they were pressed by their employees, presumably, to do something about Florida. Now, Disney, I will remind you, just produced a movie in China, right? Mulan was produced in the Zhejiang province, where they are actively holding a bunch of Muslims in captivity. No words from Disney about China. Disney has bases all over the world in actual repressive countries. Disney is never asked by the media about any of those things. Disney is only asked about Florida in the same way that Major League Baseball and Coca-Cola were only asked about Georgia after a voting law passed that was still more liberal on voting than the state of Delaware. The media play this activist game. There is no distinction anymore between the media and the folks over at Media Matters. There's no distinction. They're part of the same echo chamber. They're staffed by the same people. They're an activist group. So what the media do is first they lie. They say there's a Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, which there is not. Then they move on to the corporations and they say, why won't you do something about this? Aren't you doing something about this? So they guise it as journalism by phrasing the question thusly. There's a bill in a state where you're located. Do you have an opinion on that? Of course, the threat is if you don't have an opinion on that, they're going to print a story about how you don't have an opinion on it, and silence is violence. If you don't forcibly and overtly reject that particular piece of legislation, this means that you passed it. You must agree with it. Your silence is assent to such legislation. So presumably that means the state that the company Disney agrees with every value in every place that it is located. Every single value in it is both a communist country, it is both a communist company because it's located in China, and it is a capitalist company because it is located in America. It is both a very left-wing company because it's located in California. It's a very right-wing company because it's located in Florida. Alternatively, it's just a company that produces a product and a service that people like to use. But the left can't leave it at that. So the journalists pretend that Disney has some sort of obligation to sound off on issues like this. Now, this has been the way that the media worked this crap for a while. For example, when the state of North Carolina passed a bill that said that public bathrooms should be separated by men and women, which seems pretty obvious. The media went to places like the NCAA and they said, dude, do you have an opinion on this? And what they meant by do you have an opinion on this is if you don't do something here, we're going to run a story about how bad and terrible and nasty you are. So this is what the media did to Disney. They said, don't say gay over and over and over. They know that Disney is a very gay-friendly company and that a lot of its employees are gay. A lot of the people who use its content and like its content are gay. And Disney is, as I say, on pretty much every issue, ranging from critical race theory to sexual ideas, very, very left-wing. And so they go to Disney and they say, what are you going to, don't you have an opinion on this? Don't you have an opinion? So for a while, Bob Chapek just shut up, which is what he should do. That's Disney's CEO. What he should say is, we are located in a bunch of different polities all over the country and all over the world. Just because we are located in these polities does not mean we agree with the policies of those places. Done. End of story. But Bob Chapek's a coward, just like everybody in corporate America is a coward, and they are deeply afraid of the left wing. Now, what they really should be afraid of, what Disney should be afraid of, is that it caves so far to left-wing values that parents stop consuming its product. Because guess what? It is my kids who consume Disney product. I have 3 children. They all know Encanto. The minute that Disney starts putting woke into its actual content, that is content I will not be consuming. Okay, so they're playing a very dangerous game here. They are siding with a bunch of left-wing radicals who, frankly, are not their chief market over the parent body at large. And I would guarantee you that 95% of parents don't want their kindergartners indoctrinated in sexual values of any sort by the schools where their kids go. Guaranteed. But Disney, because they were suckered into doing this, they decided to speak out. So Bob Chapek, he was criticized for speaking out about, but not directly condemning, Florida's controversial Don't Say Gay bill. Again, that is how CNN characterizes it. The Don't Say Gay bill, because they're a propaganda outlet. You can always tell who the propaganda outlets are. On Wednesday, Chapek agreed with the criticism. He said, I understand our original approach, no matter how well intended, didn't quite get the job done. He said this during the company's annual shareholder meeting. He took a stronger stance against the bill on Wednesday, telling shareholders he called Florida Governor Ron DeSantis Wednesday morning to convey the company's disappointment and concern. Chapek said if the legislation becomes law, it could, quote, quote, be used to unfairly target gay, lesbian, non-binary, and transgender kids and families. The governor heard our concerns and agreed to meet with me and LGBTQ plus members of our senior team in Florida to discuss ways to address them, said Chapek. He added the outcome in Florida was not what many of us were hoping for, especially our LGBTQ plus employees. And then he said he went on to say Disney tried working behind the scenes to denounce the bill. Okay, this drove a response from Governor DeSantis, which is exactly right. His office says Governor DeSantis has always been open to hearing from Floridians and having conversations about legislation, as long as those discussions are grounded in fact, not false media narratives. Anyone who has questions or concerns about the Parental Rights in Education bill is encouraged to read the bill, rather than the distorted coverage in mainstream media, which regurgitates false partisan talking points. Disney contacted our office today to speak with the governor. This is the first time we have heard from Disney regarding HB 1557. The governor did take the call from Mr. Chapek. The governor's position has not changed. No in-person meeting has been scheduled yet. Disney is a family-friendly company that creates wholesome entertainment for kids. The same Florida parents who take their families to Disney also support parental rights in education because they do not want their young children exposed to inappropriate content about sex and gender theory at school. Correct. So Disney is playing a very dangerous game pushed there by a media that repeats democratic lies and talking points for political purposes. So if Disney wishes to embrace this, man, go for it. Really, if you wish, you want to reap the whirlwind, come out against parents being able to teach their kids what they wish about sexual mores at young ages. Seriously, do it, Disney. Pull the trigger on that and see how it goes for you. You're playing a suicidal game here. Disney's money comes from people like me. Disney's money predominantly does not come from left-wing social activists on Twitter, or the morons who write for the Associated Press and term a bill that is not a don't say gay bill, a don't say gay bill, because they take their talking points directly from Jen Psaki and the White House. The battle for the culture is heating up. We here at the Daily Wire are making some big moves. So be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, because you're not going to want to miss a single moment.